Welcome back to my channel, guys. It is story time. I have a story for you. So, a few months back, I took a seaplane for a quick trip to the Florida Keys and to get, by the way, very cool experience. Highly recommend taking a seaplane. Never done that in my life. It was cool on the plane, very small plane. I had a headset, Top Gun style. I felt like a little pilot, even though I didn't have to do anything, which was perfect. I got to cosplay without really having any real responsibilities. Anyway, to get to the seaplane in Miami, I first had to take a small boat to the seaplane, right? And the boat captain who took me to the seaplane was this beautiful guy, okay? And as soon as we met and shook hands, there was something in the eye contact. I found him very good looking, but something in the way he looked back at me where I felt something, almost like we were both scanning each other, okay? And I thought this boat would be full of people. I thought the seaplane would be full of people. Turns out it was just me. So it's just me and this hunk of a man on this boat on the way to the seaplane. And the entire boat ride, this guy talked my ear off. Very chatty, very, very chatty. And as he kept talking, I wondered, I thought, is he nervous? Like, what is this? Why is he so sort of like excited to talk? Which, of course, I didn't complain. I think it's endearing when people are, um, they want to talk and all of that. And he was telling me about how he moved from a much more conservative state in the U.S. and that people here are more open-minded in Miami and even in Florida in general compared to where he's from. And he was just telling me about his life, how he got there, and you know the fact that he works on the water. Like, how cool is that gig, right? Meanwhile, people like me, and I'm sure a lot of you, were behind a desk all day. So I was genuinely curious, and we were sort of just going back and forth. And then I took the seaplane, right? And I remember thinking, I hope I see him on the way back. Like, when I come back to Miami, taking a seaplane back, I hope I get to see this guy again. Like, who is this guy? I was just left curious. And I was also left curious about, was it really mutual, or did I just want it to be mutual, right? It was just subtle enough that I wasn't sure. But the reason I mentioned the chatty thing, as well as him mentioning that he wanted to be somewhere more open minded, I wondered if those were cues. You know, I've noticed that gay men, when they're at ease, and I'm including myself in this description, tell me if you've noticed this, gay men watching. I find that gay men, when they're comfortable and they feel safe, they're very expressive. They get very chatty. And I believe that this is a reaction to, for those of us who were closeted for so long, or felt like we had to act a certain way or toughen up, whatever you want to call it, that when we feel comfortable now, it's sort of like, opening Pandora's box. And it's just this avalanche of expression and emotion because we're so used to bottling things up. Now, this is my opinion, but it's just an observation that I've had, that gay men tend to be way more chatty and expressive once they get the chance. So, anyway, on the way back to Miami after this trip to the Keys, I take a seaplane back, and who do I see as soon as I get off the seaplane but this boy again? Let's give him a name just so I don't keep saying this boy or this hunk or whatever. I'm going to call him Adrian. We're going to call him Adrian. So I see Adrian and it's like, hey, nice to see you again, blah, blah, blah. He asked me about the trip. And again, he's very, very chatty. And it's again just him and I on this boat. And I'm like, all right, I got like 5 minutes riding with him. Like, this is it. Figure it out. Is there something here? Do you want to stay in touch with Adrian? Like, what do you want to do? This is all going in my head as he keeps yapping away, right? And at the end of this conversation, and now it's time for me to get off the boat and head home, he said, it was nice meeting you. We should stay in touch. Or let's stay in touch. Something about staying in touch. And in the moment, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I briefly talked about something else, and that was it. And we didn't actually exchange information because in the moment, I guess I also sort of froze and I wasn't sure. I think I'm so used to people saying things like, nice to meet you, let's stay in touch, but in a disingenuous intent, just like politeness, that I don't know anymore whether people are truthful or not when they say that. So because he didn't make the effort of like, let's exchange Instagram, give me your number or anything like that, I didn't do anything proactively either, right? I just was polite back and then went on my way. But then in the Uber ride home, I was sometimes it takes me a second to process things, especially with men where it's ambiguous and I don't really know if it was mutual and I'm too embarrassed to like go full throttle with it because I don't know if it's mutual interest, right? Or if the person's even gay. So in the Uber ride home, I was, transcribing in my head and I thought, shit. I think that was his way of saying like, is this mutual? Do you want to stay in touch? And I didn't, take a leap. Maybe he was thinking the exact same thing as me and wanted me to like meet him halfway, right? So I'm in the Uber home and I'm like, I might have just totally sabotaged this. But to be honest, at the time, I was also not in a good headspace. I also didn't feel sexy. Like I was heavier than I am now. I've lost about 20 pounds, as some of you guys know. And so I just was like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. You know, it wasn't clear whether it was mutual or not. Who knows what he meant when he said, let's stay in touch? Maybe he was just being polite. On to the next, right? Oh, I forgot to mention a detail, which is that in this conversation with him, he mentioned joining the running club in Miami. And some of you guys know I'm a runner, long distance runner, but I run by myself. I don't want to run with people. To me, that's not fun. Like for me, running is fun and it's liberating because I'm by myself. So there's no pressure to keep up with anybody or like make small talk with people. I'm in my own zone when I'm running. It's my form of meditation. Like it calms me. But he was saying, like, oh, that's so interesting. You should think about joining. You can run with people. And I was like, yeah, no, it's not my thing. So anyway, fast forward months later, I happened to talk to a gay guy. He's not in Miami, so it's not related to the same running club. But he tells me that he's in a running club and he picks up guys in this running club. And instantly my spidey senses went off, my antennas, and I remembered that conversation about the running club. And so now I'm talking to this other guy and I'm like, how do you know that they're gay? Unless they're like, flamboyantly gay. Like how do you know who's gay and da da da? And he was like, are you kidding? A running club is mostly gay men. Like gay men tend to be runners or runners tend to be gay men. And this sort of uh, conclusion was fascinating to me because like where did he get this from? What statistic, what data is there to support this idea, right? But I'm now really curious about this because I'm thinking back to the other guy and I'm like, is this a thing that like somehow nobody told me, that running clubs are for gay guys? And I started thinking about when I see packs of people meaning running clubs, wherever it is, that doesn't have to be in Miami, it tends to be mostly guys. And so suddenly my gears are turning and I'm like, is this a secret? Like, just like how you hear stuff about saunas and steam rooms and locker rooms at gyms, is this like a thing where these are homosocial environments, meaning mostly people of the same gender, where stuff, it's actually like wink, wink kind of thing? And so this guy that I met was saying, absolutely, it's a thing. And then I thought about another guy I know who's in a running club who's definitely gay. And I started thinking, like, maybe there's a conspiracy here that nobody told me about. So again, it made me think about that guy from the boat. And I'm like, was that his way of dropping a hint? Or if nothing else, telling me that my instincts were right, that he is a gay man, right? And shortly after that, I tell this entire story to a gay friend about the guy on the boat. And he's like, obviously, that guy was into you. What else could that guy mean from the boat when he said that Miami's much more open minded and that's what he likes? Uh, and what else could a guy mean by saying, let's stay in touch, unless he actually wants to stay in touch? So I now feel like an idiot that I totally overthought this and didn't just trust my gut, right? And you guys, after a few weeks of hesitating and not being sure, because I never got his contact info, right? I thought, you know what? Take a chance on a guy. Take a chance on romance. Take a chance on love. Like, you have nothing to lose. Just go for it. You're healthy. I don't know how young I really am now, officially in my mid 30s, but you know what I'm saying. Like, nothing to lose. Just go for it. So I contacted this was I think this was pretty bold. Like, the courage it took me, that I had to muster to do this. I contacted the company that dealt with this whole seaplane and the boat in between thing. And I said, hey, and this was over text, by the way, over Instagram. I said, hey, I meant to stay in touch with Adrian about this trip that I took a few months ago. We meant to stay in touch about the running club. I lied. Meant to stay in touch about the running club, totally forgot. Could you please send him my contact info, my Instagram? And I figured that way it's like not aggressive. Like, I'm not asking for his contact information. I'm not doing anything, inappropriate. But this way I'm also being discreet and not making it clear to his coworkers possibly that, like, I'm hitting on him and I'm interested, right? Guess who responds? But Adrian. Turns out he's repping their, I guess, Instagram. And he gets back to me and he's like, hey, it's me. It's Adrian. And I'm like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. But all he said was, hey, it's me. Which I didn't know what to make of that, because I thought if my instincts are completely off, then he would be naive and probably say, oh yeah, the running club's on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Meet at the Nike store or whatever. But all he said was, hey, it's me. So I'm thinking, okay, I think he doesn't know what to make of it either. We're both sort of waiting for the other person to make a move. So I'm like, keep it cool, Kev, keep it cool. And I said, how are you doing? Thinking, like, let me ease into this. Let me not bring up the running club. Like, let me give him the hint of, I just want to be in touch with you. By the way, he responded days later, which was disappointing. And all he said was, oh, I'm great. And he said something about his job, but he didn't say anything else. And he didn't ask me anything about me or how I'm doing. And you guys, I was just turned off. I was like, he has to know now. We've exchanged a few messages here. He has to know that I'm not reaching out about the fucking running club, and that I'm reaching out because I want to explore this, right? And his two responses to me were concise enough that I was like, I don't think he's interested. And now I don't even know if he's into guys anymore. Like, it totally threw me for a loop. And what's interesting is, years ago, I would have kept pushing because I would have thought, you got this far, see this through. The worst case, is he just rejects you or tells you he's not interested or whatever. But it rubbed me the wrong way how delayed his response was, but also the lack of emotional intelligence to engage with me. Even just to say, like, hey, were you really reaching out about the running club? Or, like, what's up? Like, what did you want to talk about? And I thought, oh, I don't know if, I actually still think that this guy's either bi or curious or gay. It's just instincts, right? It led me to that conclusion and I stand by that. His response has told me, oh, he's not ready for whatever reason, or he's just, I don't know, he's not, there's a wall there. And when I think back to it, right, on the boat, there was still this ambiguity where neither of us made a full move. And I just feel like I'm at that age where I don't want to keep pushing if something doesn't feel totally right. I don't want to force it. I don't want potential discomfort. In my mind, it's like, all right, I reached out to you out of the blue months later. If you're interested, you'll let me know. And he didn't. The conversation ended there. I did not respond after that last message. I was just kind of turned off, to be honest. I'm still glad I reached out. I'm trying to lean into doing stuff like that more versus relying, of course, on an app like Grindr or Tinder or whatever, because I want to work on fine tuning my instincts in the moment instead of then, just like I did this time with this story, going home and then sort of processing it. When I was telling my friend about this, as I mentioned earlier, to him it was so obvious. He was like, yeah, obviously that guy was into you. And I'm like, why do I still have this self-doubt of not realizing somebody would be into me unless it's like in my thrown in my face, without a doubt, like full on uh lust, I guess, from a guy's eye contact and stuff at let's say a gay bar at 2 a.m. As always, curious to hear your thoughts on this, and have you had similar encounters, and how do you deal with it? Do you just kind of go for it, or are you like me where you hate ambiguity and you're afraid of, I don't know if afraid is the right word. I don't know if it's a fear of rejection or just panicking in the moment. But let me know how you deal with these situations and what your take is on all of this. Catch you next time.